Welcome to the Focus 3 podcast with Tim and Brian Kight. This is podcast number 40, and Brian was speaking at a coaching conference up in Oregon, is not here today, so I'm going solo. Actually, David Treshell is the producer, and David's going to be with me here today, as always, helping us to produce a great podcast. So, David, welcome.
Thank you for having me, TK.
Awesome. The podcast today, I'm going to do something really interesting. We're obviously approaching the 2018-19 school year, and coaches are preparing for their fall sports, as well as the winter and spring coaches are getting ready with their stuff, and the school year is getting going, and as well as businesses are getting ready for this next year. So I want to ask 4 questions in today's podcast. Question number 1 I'm going to ask is, what mindset are you bringing to this 2018 school year, season, and your business year? That's question number 1 I'm going to ask. Number 2, what is your strategy for creating positive energy? I think we all know that energy is critically important for getting anything done. So what is your strategy for creating positive energy? Number 3 question, how strong are the connections that you have built with the people that you're leading and that you're working with? And number 4, what is your plan for making a difference? Leadership isn't a difference maker, it's the difference maker. Let's get to work. All right, question number 1, what mindset are you bringing to this 2018 school year, academic year, your season if you're a coach, or this year if you're a business leader? Mindset obviously is a powerful force in all of our lives. Your mindset is your internal mental state that shapes how you see and respond to events and situations and people. We know that behavior is internal and mental first, and it's external and behavioral second. That how you think and process information on the inside is what generates what you choose to do and say or not do and not say on the outside. The interesting fact is that in many situations, the critical success factor is mental. And so choosing attitude, choosing mindset, and developing and getting yourself into a great mental state is essential if you're going to lead, coach, anything in life. We operate at our best when our mind is not distracted by negativity or weakened by anxiety. We don't operate well if we're distracted or frustrated or gotten off track because of fear or frustration or cynicism or something negative. When you are able to discipline your mind to see clearly and think productively, you're in a attitude or mindset that's going to drive you to do your best. You'll see more clearly again and make better decisions and take action that's productive. The goal in mindset is to develop the ability to focus all of your mental energy on understanding situations and then responding with intention, purpose, and skill. That's what an effective leader does. Does that make sense, Dave?
100%.
And I think that we get ourselves into trouble when we are, as you know from our language, default-driven rather than discipline-driven in our mindset. We allow our mind to move into the default mode, we're not at our best. But when we develop the ability to be in the discipline-driven mindset, then we're going to be a lot more effective. I want to suggest this then for all the leaders of a school and of a team, and certainly of a business. I suggest a 3-part mindset about how we go about this thing called leadership. And I said this recently in a keynote that I gave to a bunch of academic leaders, actually elementary school principals. When you drive into the parking lot of the school and you're sitting in your car and you're about to get out of your car and go into the building, and again, this is for administrators, this is for teachers, this is for coaches. Here's what I suggest that you say to yourself and to build this, the mindset that's necessary. Say to yourself 3 things. Wow, today I get to lead with purpose. I get to serve people, and I get to solve problems. That's what I get to do today, and be excited about that. And may I suggest, if you can't say that to yourself, probably a pretty good idea to stay in your car until you can say that to yourself. So I fear sometimes that we don't actually have a disciplined strategy for producing and sustaining the mindset necessary in order for us to execute this thing called leadership. So let me unpack that for a second, that three-part mindset. Number one, I get to lead with purpose. Please understand, I'm saying, say this to yourself. Before you walk into that building, before you walk onto that court, before you walk onto that field, before you walk into that gym or that locker room or that weight room or that classroom or that machine shop floor or that bank or that hospital, say to yourself, I get to lead with purpose today. And when I say that, I mean that just literally, that there's a purpose to your organization. There's a purpose to your school. There's a purpose to your team. Know what that purpose is and lead for it. And be prepared to walk into that building, to walk into that classroom, and be fueled and energized by the purpose. You know, we see a lot of people today who I'm not sure are purpose-driven. I'm not sure that they know what job they have. I saw a bumper sticker recently that said, I owe, so off to work I go. And I thought to myself, that's not a person who is going to work that day with purpose. That's not a person who is purpose-driven. That's a person who's on autopilot, who's not intentional, who's not purposeful, and probably not working hard to build the skill necessary to execute their job. But when you walk into that building, when you walk into your classroom and you know what your reason for being there is, you know what the purpose is, difference maker, huge difference maker. And I particularly for educators, what a fantastic calling. What a tremendous calling to be able to educate young people. And I want to make sure that we have all thought through the why of what it is that we do. I've heard recently, and I'm not exactly sure who said it, but I don't think people get burned out because of what they do. I think people get burned out because they lose sight of why they do it. So before you walk into the building, before you walk into the classroom, before you walk into wherever your place of work is, make sure that you lead with purpose and you know your why. Number two, serve people. If you are a leader, your job is to serve people. So you're pursuing the purpose, and then at the heart of your purpose is you get to serve others. Leadership is all about helping other people achieve things. It's all about helping other people get things done. Leadership is all about the process of equipping and empowering people to achieve things. Leadership is a phenomenal calling. It's a fantastic thing that we get to do. It's not something we have to do. It's something that we get to do. And serving people is at the heart of leadership. And in that, well, those two things go together. The first thing I said, lead with purpose. And the second thing, serve people. Make sure that you know, make sure you say to yourself, make sure that you are focusing on those two incredibly powerful callings when it comes to leadership, that mindset that you have. Third thing is solve problems. You get to solve problems. I have this vision, Dave, of leadership that a person, when the alarm goes off in the morning, rubs their hands together, almost claps, and is fairly, maybe strongly, I'll use the word joyful, about they get to go to work to solve problems. Mm-hmm. As opposed to the alarm goes off in the morning, you think about your day and you think, oh man, today I have to, are the problems I have to deal with today. Folks, the world that we live in doesn't always work well. There's some brokenness in the world in the sense of things don't always operate the way they're supposed to, which means there's always going to be problems. A leader is someone who gets to commit to the process of solving problems. And it's not that the leader solves all of them. That's not the point. The leader helps people solve problems. And when you have this mindset of today, in my classroom, in my building, in my place of work, on my team, I'm a leader and I get to lead with purpose. I get to serve people. I get to solve problems. And that's the mindset you bring. That's a game changer. As opposed to the leader who engages in BCD, who doesn't have a solution mindset, but rather the person has a BCD. Again, BCD meaning blame, complain, defend. Notice this, the opposite of BCD, and we strongly, and you've heard us talk about it on our podcast, eliminate BCD. Eliminate it immediately and ruthlessly from your life. Get rid of it. But folks, the opposite of BCD, the opposite of blame, complain, defend, isn't silence. The opposite of BCD is solutions or resilience, meaning don't complain, don't blame, don't defend your behavior, but take that same energy that's wasted on BCD and redirect it into either finding a solution or resilience, which means navigating through the situation with a positive mindset. And if we could just think about the power of that, folks, in schools. Think about if we had leaders at all levels in a school, all levels in athletics, all levels in a business, where the leaders did not complain, where the leaders did not blame, where the leaders did not defend, but rather got people to focus on either finding a solution to the problem or navigating through it with a positive mindset, because you can't solve all the problems. There are going to be problems that exist in any kind of a organization or any kind of a team or kind of a school. Some problems just can't be solved, or can't be solved easily, or can't be solved now. So we're going to waste zero time BCDing about that problem. We're going to reinvest, redirect all of our time, all of our energy, all of our focus on solving or navigating through it. So my first question is, what mindset are you bringing to this year? Are you bringing the mindset that, as a leader, are you bringing the mindset of, wow, every day I get to lead with purpose, serve people, and solve problems? Or do you have a mindset that's different than that, the mindset that doesn't recognize the high calling of leadership? So that's my question number one. Question number two, what is your strategy for creating positive energy in your school, in your classroom, on your team, in your business? Another element of leadership is, I believe, is the necessity of creating energy and then giving energy, positive energy to people, being an energy giver, not an energy taker. One of my concerns is I'm seeing more and more where the frustration on the outside for some people is diminishing the fire on the inside. And I'm particularly concerned about that in education, where someone has allowed the frustrations that exist, and they're real, but they've allowed the frustrations to diminish their fire. I can make a case that a leader is in fact someone for whom the fire on the inside is always stronger than the frustrations on the outside. Dave, have you been around leaders where their frustration diminishes their fire?
Absolutely.
Well, what's it like to be around a leader like that? What kind of an environment, culture, experience does that kind of a leader create?
Confusion. And that's one of the things that slows a lot of people and organizations down from acting. Because whenever the leader is frustrated, it creates an air of confusion for the people around him or her.
Okay, so my question is, to everyone hearing this, what is your strategy for creating positive energy? What happens to the energy of the team when the leader allows frustration to overcome that internal fire? Energy
diminishes.
It becomes negative energy. And there's the challenge. And I have this growing awareness, and listen to me carefully on this, everyone. I have this growing awareness that leadership is in fact the energy source for an organization or a team. And I'm a big fan of physics, and I know that in physics that the that all systems expend energy in order to operate. And in order for a system to operate continually and effectively and efficiently, there has to be a continuous injection of focused energy in order for this system, any system, mechanical system or chemical system or any kind of a physical system. And it's true for any organizational system that you need the continual input and injection of focused energy for that system to function. A school is a system. But folks, a school is a human system first and an educational system second. A football team or a field hockey team or a cross-country team, which are fall sports, those are human systems first and athletic systems, sports systems second. A business is a human system first and an operating system second. And what we know then is that the quality of the educational system is dependent upon the strength of the human system. That the quality and effectiveness of a field hockey team is dependent upon the human system that drives and supports it. The source of energy for the human system is called leadership. And when a leader lacks positive energy, himself or herself, they're not in a position to inject positive energy into the school, into the team, into the business. So my question, what is your strategy for creating positive energy for yourself as a leader, and then injecting that positive energy for your team, for your school, or for your business? Your energy, leaders, listen to me, your energy sets the tone. And you better be really good. You better be, I'm going to use our word, you better be elite at creating positive energy for yourself every day. You got to bring it every day. Now let's be real on this. You're going to expend energy. You're going to create it, then you're going to expend it. You're going to create energy. If you're good at this, you're going to create energy for yourself, and then you're going to bring that energy and use that positive energy as you lead every day. Now at the end of that day, you're going to be tired. You'll have expended your own energy. So here's one of the key disciplines of elite energy creation. You better be really good at replacing and replenishing it for yourself. You're not going to be an effective leader if you expend energy and then you don't go home and have a strategy, have a method for replacing your energy. It's called energy recovery. And that requires nutrition, that requires rest, that requires physical fitness, and then there's mental skills, the ability to process the stuff that's going on and to create within yourself the right kind of emotional energy that you need to execute this wonderful calling called leadership. So I'm fascinated by the role that leaders play in the creation of consistent positive energy within a school, on a team, or in a business.
Hey, TK, let me pause you right there.
Yeah.
I'm putting myself in the position of a teacher or a coach or businessman, and their parents and their spouses and all the above, and they say, I hear you, and I know that that's right, and I know that that's real, and I need to be doing that. I just can't find the time. What do you tell that person?
Well, don't you think, Dave, there's two things. I think there's how and then there's the time. There's the how and the when. Is that fair?
Very fair.
It's not just how, and not just when, it's also how. So I think the primary issue there isn't time. I think the primary issue is skill. Because we all have time to do things. Now we're going to allocate it different ways, but if you don't have skill at energy creation, it doesn't matter how much time you have. Am I okay with that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me just suggest or coach everyone on this. Here is the skill of energy creation. And there's no magic to it. It's just world-class mechanics. It's R2 in the R Factor toolbox. It's the get your mind right competency in the R Factor. Because energy, said it at the outset, energy is internal and mental first and external and behavioral second. The mind tells the body what to do. And we know this, if you're very disciplined in your mindset, you're going to be able to do things from an energy perspective even when you're physically tired. If you're not mentally positive, if you don't have the right kind of positive mental energy, that can even pull your body down or backwards, irrespective of your level of physical energy. So energy creation and then energy giving is a mental discipline first and a behavioral discipline second. So let me back up for a second then and quickly review Get Your Mind Right and how it applies to this question of what is your strategy for creating positive energy in your school, in your classroom, on your team, or in your business, and then also address the timing issue. So number one, you've got to be great at choosing what you focus on. Positive people who create positive energy focus on, they see things clearly, they focus on what matters, and they don't fixate on the negative. That's step number one. Don't acknowledge the negative, as well as the positive, as well as everything in between, but don't fixate on the negative. People fixate on the negative. Positive people focus on what needs to be done. Think about this. You can focus on one of two things. You can focus on things you don't like and how you feel, or you can focus on things that need to be done and the action that needs to be taken and what that looks like in terms of execution. Positive people will say, wow, that's uncomfortable, that's negative, so what are we going to do? That's a problem, what do we need to do to solve it? That's the positive focus. The negative focus is, well, that's a problem and I just don't like it. That scares me, that frustrates me. And ironically, the negative people will almost invariably share that negativity with someone else. Again, what we call BCD. Whereas the positive person will say, yes, that's a problem, and now what are we all going to do to work together to make that thing better? The focus step is so important in energy creation because your mind can't and doesn't focus on everything. Your mind is selective in what it focuses on. It's limited. It's just impossible for any human being to see everything. So choose wisely what you focus on. And you know, Dave, that doesn't take a ton of time to do that. That's a moment-by-moment thing. As we're confronted during our day with people and situations and events, we can choose to find and focus on a productive action, or we can choose to fixate on the negative. And you can do that in either one of those, positive or negative focus, in a nanosecond. The second part of the mindset process from Get Your Mind Right that applies to energy creation is self-talk. You know, once you focus on a situation, once you focus on an element of a situation, you immediately begin telling yourself a story about what you focus on. And that story can be negative or positive. That story can be discipline-driven or default-driven. And you got a voice in your head, and that voice is constantly talking. And if that voice is negative, it's going to produce negative energy. If that voice is positive, it's going to produce positive energy. Elite leaders are exceptionally skilled at talking to themselves in positive, productive ways. Again, they don't ignore the existence of problems, but their internal story, their internal self-talk is productive. It's not negative. And it's amazing how much of energy creation falls to those two things, what I focus on and the story that I tell myself. And I can say with tremendous confidence that as you begin to be more positive in your focus and your self-talk, you're going to create in yourself a great deal of more positive energy, create that, and be able to share that with other people. On the other hand, if you're a leader and your focus is negative and your stories and self-talk are negative, you are not going to be a positive, you're not going to be a source of positive energy for the people in your classroom, on your team, or in your building. So, I mean, arguably, one of the most important skills in leadership is your ability to find and focus on the positive things and talk to yourself and others in positive, productive ways to produce the positive energy necessary to do the work to solve the problem or achieve the goal. Mm-hmm. And there are problems. One more time, just to make sure no one is misunderstanding. Positive people, the way we're describing it, productive people, positive energy leaders do not ignore problems, but they seek to solve them, and they bring the energy necessary to solve those issues and those problems. So when I say don't let the frustrations on the outside diminish the fire on the inside, I'm acknowledging that frustrations exist.
Okay.
You have a question?
I have a two-part question.
Okay.
And so if I'm new to this, and they say, hey, TK, I hear you. I want to start building that skill.
Yep.
Start building the skill of being more disciplined about where my focus goes and how my self-talk runs in my mind, or how I control my self-talk.
Yep.
Where do I draw the line between focusing on the negative and focusing on the real but really hard?
Well, I think I just said it, and maybe I didn't make it clear. Talk to me about how clear this is.
Sure.
Because you're representing the listeners, so if it's not clear, let me know. My whole point about a productive focus doesn't ignore the difficulty or the reality or the frustrations of a thing. It looks at it, and in fact, I would contend this. I think a productive focus, frankly, sees the situation more clearly than a pessimistic one does. And there's even some studies that show this, that negative people, pessimistic people, cynical people find, focus, and fixate on some negative element, and they just lock into it. And there may be more negative things there than they actually see. Whereas a productive thinker, a genuinely positive person, again, the way we're describing it, sees the situation with clarity and courage and says, you know what, that's going on, and that's bad. That's not working for us. That's working against us. That's painful, that's difficult, that's hard. Okay, given the reality of it, what should we do? What action should we take? What might a solution look like? Or, you know what? I don't know what the solution is. I'm kind of confused. Hey, let's put a team together and go figure out what needs to be done in order to accomplish that goal or solve that problem. Does that help clarify?
It does, which actually I'm glad you said the word team, because that brings me to question number 2. If I'm new at this and I'm trying to build this skill, how do I deal with negative people that I work with on a daily basis?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working right down the hall or in the cubicle over, or they're in the next door
There's
classroom.
negative people?
I've heard there's a few.
Have you?
I've heard that they exist somewhere.
There's pessimists and cynics out there?
Yeah.
Resistors?
Yes, they exist.
So let me go back to it. Just go put these two things together. When the alarm goes off in the morning, one of the things as a leader, folks, I'm going to call you to something. This is a real challenge, but I'm going to call you to this. I'm going to challenge you with this. Be excited to deal with the pessimists. You get to lead them with purpose. You get to serve them. You get to help them solve problems. That's a calling. And then number 2, when you meet them, which you do, maybe every day, bring a positive mindset to those people. Now, part of the positive mindset, Dave, is relentless. One of the things they need to experience from you is you're going to be relentlessly positive and productive. You're going to be relentless in building this culture. You're going to be relentless in solving those problems. You're going to be relentless in challenging them and asking them, stop complaining, stop being negative, and join the journey of building this culture, educating these kids, developing these skills for our athletic team, pursuing our mission and productivity as a business. This is what we do every day. Yes, there's problems. And the message to the cynical people, the message to the people with a bad attitude, teach them to have a fire on the inside that's stronger than the frustration on the outside, which means this too. It's not enough to just tell them to be positive. Show them how. Teach them the R factor. Teach them R1, press pause. Teach them R2, get your mind right. Show them how to have productive self-talk. Show them how not to redirect from a negative focus to a positive, productive focus. Because the reason they're negative is because they've fixated on the negative. And they've talked to themselves about it, and it's become a habit for them. Or they're getting caught in something. So coach them. Leadership is not just declaring, leadership is coaching. And there's people out there that would like to be positive, don't know how. And it's our job as leaders to give them that methodology. Fair?
Very fair.
Okay. All right, number 3 question for all of you leaders listening. How strong are the connections that you've built? You know, leadership, we talked about this a few podcasts ago, leadership is it's a relational thing first and a positional thing second. Leadership isn't an executive position. Leadership is a relationship position. Elite leaders are world-class at building relationships with the people that they lead. And I read something recently that Manny Scott, who was one of the original freedom riders from that famous 2007 movie. I love this quote. He said, this is to educators, he said, invest as much time understanding who you teach as you do understanding what you teach. And I thought that's a very profound statement for all of us who lead in athletics or in business or in education, is that we all have a message to deliver. We all have a culture we're building, that we have goals we're trying to achieve. We have strategies we're seeking to execute. We've got processes that we're managing. We have content that we're teaching and technique that we're teaching. That's awesome. That's the what of what we do. Well, Mandy was challenging all of us, make sure you invest as much time understanding who you teach, who you lead, as much as what you're teaching or what you're leading or trying to execute for. Because leadership is about getting stuff done with and through others. It goes back to what I said in terms of when you walk through the building every day, is I get to lead with purpose and serve people. And that's our task. So connection and the connections that you build are essential, central. It's the heartbeat of leadership. And I think it's this, in fact, to make this happen, is I think that it's important you have to elevate your love without lowering your standards. You have to have as much commitment to the people that you're leading as you do to whatever standards it is that you're holding people. Because I've recognized this long ago. You can only push people as far as the level of trust or relationship that you've built with people. And if you want to be, great leaders are, I've said this before, great leaders are easy to follow and hard to please. When you're an elite leader, that means that you have very high standards, but you really care deeply for the people that you are leading. Level of caring drives level of connection. Level of connection drives level of commitment. Every teacher wants committed students. Every coach wants committed athletes. Every principal wants committed teachers. Every business leader wants committed associates. Folks, people will only commit when they feel deeply connected to and cared about. We all want committed students, athletes, employees, teachers. We all want people to be committed in our organization. One more time. Level of commitment is driven by how connected people feel and how cared for they feel. And if you want strong commitment, then connect with your people, and you connect with your people by caring about them. And if you've got high standards, but the love isn't high enough, that's an environment that's too hard. If you've got high love but lower standards, that's an environment that's too soft. What we need to have is very high levels of caring and love and appropriate levels, high levels of standard. Now, real quick, folks, love is not a feeling. We've done great disservice to this in our society. Love isn't something you feel. Love is something that you do. Love isn't an emotion. It's an action. Now, some of you romantics are listening to me and you're thinking, there's no feeling. I didn't say that. I didn't say there's no feeling. That primarily love is a disciplined decision. It's about what you do, not always about how you feel. That's really fantastic when we feel like acting in the right interest of somebody else and we've got the discipline and the character to do it. But the point that I'm making is that you don't always feel like acting in someone else's best interest. You don't always feel like caring for somebody. But if you're an elite leader, if you're exceptional in leadership, you make the decision to care about somebody. Here's our definition of caring, and I think this is very powerful. Find out what is important to the other person, and then make it important to you in a way they can feel it. Caring, again, is find out what is important to somebody else and then make it important to you in a way they can feel it. So in other words, caring isn't how you feel about the other person, it's about how you make them feel. And that's why caring drives connection and connection drives commitment. And if you care deeply about people, you invest the time to find out who they are. You invest the time to find out what's going on in their life. So true with students today. Kids want to be loved. Students want to be understood. Students want to be cared for, and that takes time. So back to what Manny said, make sure you invest as much time understanding who you teach as you do understanding what you teach. And that's essential to this entire enterprise that we call leadership. Build world-class connections with the people that you teach, the people that you lead, the people that you coach. Question 4, what is your plan for making a difference? I said at the outset, leadership isn't a difference maker. It's the difference maker. Leadership creates energy. Leadership envisions. Leadership equips and inspires people. Leadership connects. Well, how do we make a difference in the midst of all that? As you go about the 2018-19 school year, athletic year, business year, what is your plan for making a difference with the people that you lead in your team or your organization, your school? You make a difference 3 ways, folks. You make a difference through your attitude, you make a difference through your action, you make a difference through your words. People feel your attitude, people see your actions, and people hear your words. Attitude is felt, action is seen, words are heard. Quick suggestion for each of those to make a difference in this coming year. When it comes to attitude, 3 things. If you want to make a difference through your attitude with the people that you lead, 3 things. Number 1, be a master observer. Number 2, be an elite listener. And number 3, be relentlessly positive and persistent. I'm going to tie some things together. Number 1, you got to be a master observer. If you're going to make a difference through your attitude, you have to have a perspective, you have to have a mindset, you have to have an attitude where you are paying attention to what's going on. And not just to the results being produced, but to the behaviors and actions of the people producing the results. And I've noticed this about elite leaders. They are, in fact, master observers. And they see below the surface. They don't just see the externals, they see the internals. And they're looking. They might not always see it, but they're trying to, and they're asking, and they're probing. And I think it's critical that if you're going to make a difference through your attitude, you have to be paying attention so you know what to do. It's the lens that you look through. And the clearer that lens, the deeper that you see, the more effectively you're going to be able to respond to what's going on and make a difference. And then number 2, which is another form of observing, is being an elite listener. Ask and then listen. And you want to find out what's going on, have an attitude of curiosity. And that's what I'm talking about from a leadership. Be very, very curious. I say this all the time to leaders who get mad easily. Don't be furious, get curious. Don't get mad, get observant. Ask, probe, be curious. What's going on with that team, with that group, with that class, with that person? And I think that's critically important if you're going to have the right attitude in making a difference. And people experience curiosity. When a leader is observant and curious, that's interest. That's the caring we're talking about in the prior question. And then number 3 is, in terms of attitude, is people need to experience your attitude of relentless, positive, and persistence, which really ties together the things that we've already said in this episode. And that is, you have to be nonstop every day, positive, productive, and persistent. And people experience you as relentlessly. You just don't give up on positivity. You just don't give up on the persistent execution of whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And when people experience that mindset in you as a leader, huge. Number 2 is action. How do you make a difference through your action as a leader? Number 1, you got to live the culture. You'd better be a doer of the values and behaviors of your culture. People need to experience in what you do the values. Way too many leaders say one thing and then do something different. They're inconsistent between what they say and what they do. Just keep in mind, folks, that the number 1 experience that people have of the culture of your organization is your behavior as a leader. Documents don't build culture, behavior does. A core value statement or a culture playbook or a culture blueprint is necessary to build an elite culture, but not sufficient. So you have a document, And there's probably a poster on the wall. There's probably a written thing of we believe this and we commit to behaving this way, or these are our guiding principles or core values. Awesome. Fantastic. You better do that thing. People don't read the document, they read your behavior. The number one message you send as a leader is how you behave. And you'd better behave consistently with the culture statements that you have. And you won't be perfect. Let's be honest. You're not going to live it perfectly. So when you don't behave in a way, when you do things that are inconsistent with the culture, be humble and allow yourself to be held accountable. Acknowledge when you don't, and then make the appropriate adjustments. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for authenticity. Be real. So if you're going to make a difference to your action, you better live the culture. Number two, pay attention to defining moments. Defining moments are situations that come up in what you do as a leader where you're tempted not to follow the culture. And if you don't think you have those defining moments, you are deceiving yourself. Every leader has situations or people that they experience where they're strongly tempted to not behave in a way that aligns with the stated standards of what it is that we believe in. Be prepared for those. Pay attention to those. Those are culture-defining moments. In fact, they're character-defining and culture. Culture's built in those moments. Culture's not built when it's easy to follow the values. Culture's built when it's hard. Is that you agree with that, Dave?
Absolutely.
So every team, every school, every business, every classroom, every teacher, principal, coach, executive, and supervisor, you have defining moments. Pay attention to them and be particularly intentional about how you respond when those moments happen. And I think a third thing in action, if you want to make a difference with people, is ask for help and give help. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there right now about this givers versus takers. People love givers. They don't like takers. I mean, we all want to be around people who give. We don't like being around people who take. And a leader should be a net giver. I mean, one of the definitions of a leader is someone who gives a lot, who just helps. How can I help? And you don't have to be good at the thing to help. You don't even have to know anything. Sometimes being a great leader is rolling up your sleeves, walking out to the shop floor, walking into the classroom, hey, how can I help? What can I do for you today? And there's just something that needs to be done. Imagine if a principal in a school on a regular basis walked around the school to the teachers and said, how can I help you today? Can I redo that bulletin board for you? What can I do to help you? What is it you need done today? And if a principal on a regular basis did that with the teachers, wow. So ask how you can help and give help. And then it's also powerful when a leader says, I need help, here's how you can help me. Now I think give first and then ask for help second. But it's really powerful when a leader says, hey, here's some stuff we need to get done and here's the help I'm asking you to give. And if you've given it as a leader, then you're in a position to ask for it and receive it from the people that you lead. So there's three things you got to do to make a difference in action. You got to live the culture, pay careful attention to defining moments, and ask for help and give help. All right, the third way we make a difference as leaders is through our words. Man, we're always talking. And I think sometimes we talk too much. But we have to be very careful and skillful in our use of words. And may I point out, we're talking about make a difference through attitude, action, and words. Those three things that better line up. Those three things that better be consistent. Whatever you say through your words and people hear from you, they better experience in your attitude and see in your action. If you say, but you don't do, which we said a moment ago, you're not going to have credibility as a leader. So how do you make a difference with your words? I think first, pay very careful attention to what you say, why you say it, and how. We need to become more skillful in the way we communicate, I think. So pay attention to what you say. Pay attention to why you say it. Pay attention to how. I think it's super helpful from a leadership perspective just to ask yourself before you say something, whether it's in a meeting or you're having a conversation with someone in a feedback session or accountability conversation, before you enter into a situation where you're communicating, is ask yourself, all right, do I know what I'm saying? Do I know why I'm saying it? And have I thought through how? And just put it in those three categories. You can even come up with a worksheet. What's my message? Why am I communicating it? And what's my strategy for how I'm going to communicate it and work through? Maybe get some feedback from somebody else. I think that's a very powerful thing for a leader to do. Number two, when it comes to making a difference through your words, fundamental, talk to people, not about them. Talk to people, not about them. Don't gossip. And we all know that gossip is on the rise in organizations. It's on the rise. I mean, I've heard a lot of gossip in schools. I've heard a lot of gossip in athletic programs. I've heard a lot of gossip in businesses. And America today is awash through Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and all these social media platforms. We are awash in toxic gossip in America today. And it is killing us, folks. So as a leader, don't be a gossip. If you need to talk to somebody, talk to them. Don't talk about them. And I think that's something we need to establish in all of our organizations. We need to get way, way, way better at that. And then I think the third way to make a difference in your words is encourage and say thank you. I didn't read this article in total. I just scanned it because I was flying, but there was an article that came out about one more, this is Inc. magazine, one more time about how all of the surveys, et cetera, are saying people are employees, associates in organizations are hungry for thank you from their managers and supervisors and executives. The word encourage, folks, is Latin for give strength of heart to somebody else. Courage is Latin for strength of heart. To encourage means to give strength of heart to other people. One of your jobs as a leader is to give strength of heart to the people that you lead. If you're a teacher, give encouragement and strength of heart to your students. If you're a principal, give strength of heart and encouragement to everyone in your building, teachers and students and parents alike. If you're a coach, your job is to give strength of heart to the athletes that you are blessed to serve and to lead. If you're a supervisor or a manager or an executive in business, your job is to encourage and give strength of heart to the employees that you are privileged to lead. Encourage and say thanks. People need to know that you see what they're doing and you appreciate it. It's this attitude of gratitude. People need to know and see and experience your appreciation and recognition that they're working hard and doing stuff. So Dave, those are the four questions that I have for everyone listening to this, the teachers, the administrators, the coaches, and the business leaders. Is that a good launch for 2018, do you think?
Absolutely.
What got your attention from this today? Anything jump out at you in terms of particularly important, or just what's flashing on your mental radar screen right now?
Well, it was funny because every time I'd write down a question about the how-to, you would jump right into it. So you answered a bunch of the questions that I was going to get to. But I went back to, as I was making my notes, to one of the original definitions of leadership, one that you taught me and two that you have addressed on this podcast. And that is, a leader is someone going on a journey and taking others with them.
Yeah.
And if you're a leader and you're going on that journey, what are the fundamentals of that? And one, that is having a vision of that journey. Mm-hmm. And it's being able to see the path forward. Mm-hmm. Not perfectly, but you're gonna be able to see what the next steps
Enough
are.
of it to get on it and start and then adjust along the way. But yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
The second step is that you're gonna act. Mm-hmm. You're going to engage in actions. And how's the best way to do that? As we've always talked about, with intention, purpose, and skill.
Discipline.
Act with discipline.
Yeah.
But it's not enough just to see and act. You have to what? You have to bring other people with you, which means you have to use your words. And I'm glad you ended on that last piece about the gossip part, because we are very careless with our words. It's too easy just to type something. It's too easy just to text and emojis and all these other ways that we communicate now that's different than what we've been accustomed to for decades up to this point.
Hey, on that one, you just triggered a thought that leaders need to understand the power of their words. Mm-hmm. I think we are reckless sometimes, and we don't really understand and see even the impact our words have on other people. But particularly in a position of leadership, teachers, your words have tremendous impact on the students in your classroom. Administrators, your words have tremendous impact on the teachers in the building. Coaches, your words have tremendous impact on the kids. One of the things that I see happening a lot in leadership today is labeling, where leaders will say things about a student or say things about a student athlete or say things about a worker or a colleague, and they label. They describe them a certain way. And labels are toxic. And sometimes when the kids, and it's interesting, sometimes we don't speak the label when the student's around, but it nevertheless affects how we see the student, and we actually behave in a way where we're not actually responding to the student, we're reacting to how we've labeled the student, which is going back to this whole, that Manny shared this, Manny Scott, where he said, put as much effort into understanding who you teach as what you teach. Man, I've seen coaches do this a lot, where they label an athlete and then they start reacting to the label, and the kid feels it, the athlete feels that label, and now is not growing and is frustrated because pigeonholed by it's just, and we do it isn't it gossip labeling a colleague? Right. Isn't gossip labeling somebody inside the building or inside the company or on the team? Oh, so-and-so, and we're just, and then confirmation bias takes over. We start seeing things that confirm, oh, I'm not labeling, I'm just telling the truth. No. That may be a current behavior pattern the person has, but that's not who they are. That everyone is capable of different. Everyone is capable of better. Everyone is capable of change. And if we're leaders, what's our job? What you said, what you've quoted from me, go on a journey and take people with you. So let me spin that a bit. Isn't leadership about helping somebody else see their journey?
Yes.
Have a vision for what they can become?
Yes.
It could be very different than how they currently behave. When you label somebody, what are you doing? You're basically fixating them on the now and robbing them of the vision. That's anti-leadership. We can't do that as leaders. Help somebody envision what's possible. Help a student, a third grader, a fifth grader, a 10th grader, help that field hockey player, help that basketball player, that cross-country runner, help that football player see something different. Help that employee, help that teacher see something that's different that he or she can be as the school year goes. So that just triggered into me. We cannot label. We've got to stop doing that and start envisioning what's possible for that person and leading them on the journey to the best version of themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked about going on the journey and taking people with you. You have to see, you have to act, and then you have to communicate.
Yep.
Which means you have to first care, be curious,
yep,
and take what's important to somebody else and make it important to you in a way that they can feel. You have to listen, and then you have to speak. Mm-hmm. You have to speak. You have to use your words to get people to come along that journey with you. And you have to speak with clarity, with precision. Are you precise with your words? Are you saying what you intend? And then
hold on. The precision, you can be technically precise and miss the heart.
Agreed, which was going to be the next piece. Clarity, precision, and do your words have meaning?
Yeah. Does it touch the heart?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's
which goes back to knowing the people that you lead.
Right.
Okay.
And here's the cool thing about that. If you're speaking with clarity, precision, and meaning, that doesn't leave any room for BCD.
Yeah. Yeah, you have no time or room for it.
Exactly.
That is a stumbling block, obstacle. It's the enemy of clarity when we communicate.
Exactly.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, man. All right, wrapping up here, 4 questions as you get ready for this 2018-19 academic year and athletic year and business year. What mindset are you bringing to the year ahead of you? What is your strategy for creating positive energy, first in yourself, And then in your culture, on your team with your colleagues and the people that you work with and students that you lead. The third question, how strong are the connections you have built? Because connection's everything when it comes to moving people. And then finally, what is your plan for making a difference through your attitude, your action, and your words? Go do the work.